At the Mar-a-Lago Super Bowl party, after the first two quarters, are the TVs going to be on the halftime show with Bad Bunny or the halftime show with Kid Rock?
I think the president would much prefer a Kid Rock performance over Bad Bunny, I must say that.
The group, founded by late conservative activist Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, said they plan to put on an alternative event called the All-American Halftime Show. It'll feature Kid Rock, a vocal Trump supporter, and country singers Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. The website says it'll celebrate, quote, faith, family, and freedom. The halftime show's Spanish-speaking headliner, Bad Bunny, has criticized President Trump on everything from his hurricane response in his native Puerto Rico to his treatment of immigrants. On Sunday night, he blasted ICE while accepting an award at the Grammys.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
Trump has said he doesn't plan to attend this year's Super Bowl and has said Bad Bunny is a terrible choice.
Hey, your host, Adam here. In the grand tapestry of American civic life, few threads are as resilient and unifying as the Super Bowl. It is more than a football game. It is a national campfire, a shared cultural moment where partisan divisions are supposed to temporarily dim beneath the glow of athletic spectacle and communal ritual. It is one of the final remaining arenas where a sitting president can appear not as a polarizing politician, but as a symbolic fan-in-chief, sharing in a collective national experience.
And Turning Point USA has revealed the lineup for its All-American Halftime Show. The conservative group says it's hosting the event as an alternative to the official Super Bowl halftime show. The announcement follows controversy over the NFL's choice of Bad Bunny as this year's headliner. Kid Rock is set to headline with country artists Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett.
This year, however, the events orbiting Super Bowl LX have violently ripped away that unifying pretense, transforming the occasion into a stark, high-definition diagnostic of the nation's deepest fractures. More than that, it has exposed a singular, humiliating truth about Donald Trump. He is a president so deeply feared and disliked by a vast swath of the citizenry he leads that he and his handlers have deemed it too dangerous for him to appear in public before them. This unfolding drama presents two interlocking acts of profound political and cultural failure. The first is the farcical self-inflicted wound of the MAGA movement's declared war on the event itself, incensed that the halftime show spotlight would be commanded by the Puerto Rican global phenomenon Bad Bunny, a person of brown color whose artistry celebrates Latin joy and inclusivity. A vocal contingent of conservative Christians and political operatives launched a sanctimonious crusade. Their response was to organize a rival, values-aligned halftime show, a move that instantly backfired, revealing a breathtaking canyon of hypocrisy at the movement's core. The second and far more devastating act concerns the President of the United States. After attending last year's Super Bowl in New Orleans, Donald Trump recently offered a palpably absurd excuse for skipping this year's game in Santa Clara, California. It was just too far away. This feeble justification, offered to the New York Post, was laughable on its face for a man with a dedicated fleet of aircraft at his constant disposal. The authentic, mortifying reason has now been leaked. Trump's own advisors conducted an internal assessment and concluded that if the president set foot in Levi's Stadium, he would be met with a torrent of aggressive stadium-filling boos. The man who claims to embody the heart of real America is now a prisoner of his own toxicity, forced to hide from the American public on its biggest day for fear of a televised national rejection. To understand the full weight of this humiliation, we must first examine the chaotic cultural preamble that set the stage. The selection of Bad Bunny as the halftime headliner was a celebration of modern American pop culture's vibrant diversity. For millions, it was a point of pride and excitement. For a segment of the reactionary right, however, it was an act of cultural provocation. Framed through a lens of xenophobia and culture war grievance, Bad Bunny's performance, promising to be a high-energy Spanish-language celebration, was branded as un-American, an affront to their narrow, monolithic vision of the nation's identity. This wasn't mere criticism. It was a declaration of tribal war against a specter of cosmopolitan change. Enter Turning Point USA, the youth-focused political arm of the MAGA ecosystem. Seeing an opportunity to rally the base and stoke the perpetual outrage machine, they announced an alternative Super Bowl halftime special. This was pure political theater, a performance of counter-programming meant to signal allegiance and own the libs. The need to manufacture a rival celebration to America's most watched televised event is, in itself, an admission of cultural alienation. But the true comedy and tragedy emerged in their choice of headline champion. They selected Kid Rock, the 55-year-old musician who has cynically rebranded from rap rock journeyman to a caricature of flag-draped truck commercial patriotism, seemed the perfect avatar for their grievance. He immediately leaned into the role, taking to social media to sneer at Bad Bunny with a crude, culturally anxious dig. He's having a dance party wearing a dress and singing in Spanish. The attack was a perfect distillation of the movement's ethos, mocking foreign language, perceived gender nonconformity, and sheer joy. The timing, however, was exquisitely bad. This controversy erupted in the immediate aftermath of the catastrophic Epstein Files document releases, which have saturated the media with evidence of a powerful network engaged in the sexual exploitation of young women and girls. And into this context, Kid Rock's own artistic history came rushing back with devastating irony. Journalists and critics quickly resurfaced his 2001 song Cool Daddy Cool from the Osmosis Jones soundtrack. The lyrics are a predator's boast. Kid Rock sings, young ladies, I like them under," a line his late collaborator Joe C. completes with, "See, some say that's statutory, but I say it's mandatory." Let that juxtaposition sink in. A movement decrying the moral decay represented by a Latino pop star has, as its cultural standard-bearer, a man who once proudly recorded a song celebrating statutory rape as mandatory. For conservative Christians ostensibly concerned with faith and family values, this alliance is morally indefensible. It reveals their cultural crusade not as a principled stand, but as a vessel for racial and ethnic anxiety, willing to embrace any figure who signals the right tribal allegiance, regardless of their personal or artistic morality. Social media erupted with deserved mockery. One user dryly noted, "Teep USA sure know how to put together a faith and family-friendly lineup," highlighting the grotesque disconnect. The alternative halftime show was thus stillborn, drowning in its own hypocrisy before it even began. This cultural pratfall, however, is merely the opening act for the main event, the abject political cowardice of Donald Trump. The president's initial excuse for skipping the Super Bowl was so flimsy it insulted the public's intelligence. Too far away is the excuse of a suburban dad deciding not to drive to a neighboring town for a party, not the rationale of a president with the resources of the federal government and a personal obsession with his own grandeur. He travels to rallies across the country at a frenetic pace. Distance has never been a material obstacle. The truth, as reported by Zachary E. and corroborated by multiple sources familiar with internal White House deliberations, is stark and brutally revealing. Advisors and officials conducted a realistic assessment of the potential reception for the president at a massive, nonpartisan public event in California, a state where his approval ratings are abysmal. Their conclusion was unanimous and alarming. The risk of Trump being aggressively booed by the crowd was unacceptably high. One source phrased it in the president's own vernacular: he would be booed big league. This internal fear is a political earthquake. For a leader whose entire persona is constructed around the image of irresistible populist strength and the adoration of his supporters, the prospect of a televised prime-time humiliation is kryptonite. A chorus of boos from 70,000 people representing a broad cross-section of Americans, not just a pre-screened rally crowd, would create an indelible viral moment. It would be a visual and auditory testament to his profound national unpopularity, a snapshot of a president rejected by his own people on the nation's biggest stage. His advisors, understanding the permanent damage such a clip would inflict, made the cold calculation: he must not go. The spectacle had to be avoided at all costs. This represents a catastrophic collapse from his position just 1 year prior. At the 2025 Super Bowl in New Orleans, Trump was present, albeit not without some controversy. His approval ratings, while never robust, were not in the absolute free fall they are today. The intervening year has been a relentless parade of scandals, most notably the ongoing damning revelations from the Epstein files, in which his name features prominently, combined with growing economic discontent and a series of policy disasters. The internal White House fear of the stadium boo is the most honest poll they have conducted. It is a raw, unspun admission that the president's presence is now a liability in general public spaces. He is not a leader mingling with the citizenry, he is a figure who must be shielded from it. The synergy of these two stories, the morally bankrupt culture war and the president's terrified isolation, paints an unforgiving portrait of the modern MAGA project. It is a movement that attacks multicultural expression as degenerate while embracing artists who glorify predation. It is led by a president who mythologizes his connection to the people, but is now so terrified of their judgment that he must cower from a football game. They claim the mantle of authentic Americanism, yet their standard-bearer cannot safely appear at America's most authentic gathering. In their frantic scramble to create a purer halftime show and to hide their leader's weakness, they have achieved the opposite. They have exposed their own cultural irrelevance and moral bankruptcy, and they have let the most embarrassing secret of all leak out. Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed strongman, is scared to death of the American people. The Super Bowl was meant to be a game. For Trump, it became a threat he couldn't face, and in his scramble to avoid it, he revealed his greatest humiliation to the world.